All right, I'd like to welcome everybody tonight. Hush, guys. I'd like to welcome everybody tonight to the College of Complexes. The College of Complexes consists of the following format. Tonight's going to be a special night where we're each going to be talking for about 10 or 12 minutes on Donald J. Trump. It was his 10 years that he started bringing somebody down from Mar-a-Lago. And we're going to be talking about him and his administration. Pro and Trump. It's going to be an open mic night tonight. There are two rules of the College of Complexes. One is no personal attacks, and the other one is one fool at a time. Now we're going to have some brief announcements, and if Charlie wants to do some announcements, I'll get the screen up here so we can get going with it real fast. Just bear with me, Charlie, while I get it going here. All right, and we'll be ready to go in about 2 to 3 minutes here, or less. Okay, Charlie, go ahead and go with the announcements.
All right, put it on the schedule.
All right. It's up.
It's not on the schedule.
That's what I'm doing right now, sir. Just ask the guy up top. I'll go get it. Okay. All right, Charlie, we got the schedule up.
Okay, scroll up.
I'm sorry.
Scroll up. There. All right.
Okay.
Okay, welcome everyone to meeting number 3,821 of the College of Complexes, the playground for people who think. Okay, we maintain an email list. If you're not presently on it, please contact me.
Sorry.
Please contact me, and I'll see to get added to our internal list. Now, although I'm not a capitalist, I will give an advertisement for upcoming programs. On next Saturday, June 14th, we're going to look at the entire history of U.S.-Cuban relations, foreign relations, dating back to the Spanish-American War of 1895. So it should be a good learning lesson, an overview of the entire relationship between these two political entities. On June the 21st, our own Tim Bulger will be looking at an ethical document issued some years ago, but apparently still relevant, by the Vatican on the relationship between labor and employment. One of the probably the most enduring and most well-known political documents that come out of Rome. It's with enduring relevance. That's Rerum Novarum on June the 21st. On June the 28th, we'll be looking at the new leader, a new leader in Central West Africa. He's taken over the country, and apparently he's making some innovations in the political economy of that continent. So Africa, we have the topic, and we don't often venture here at the college. On July the 5th, yours truly, Charles Paydock. And I'm trying to make this kind of a history lesson as well. But I'm looking at the very reasonable annexation or invasion and annexation of Canada as part of the territory of the United States. I put together a pretty good, simple PowerPoint with many aspects of Canadian culture and history, which many of you are not aware of. So on July the 5th, hopefully by then, the United States will perhaps undertaken to annex Canada. On July the 12th, a group that has not been here and a topic of relevance is the American Indian Association. We'll be visiting the College, bring us up today.
Sweet and sour pickles.
Please keep it quiet there in the college, please.
I'll try the knuckleball, please.
Go ahead, Charlie.
Well, I've got a lot of competition here from somebody.
Okay, great.
On July the 19th, we're gonna have a whole new topic on how to avoid paying any federal income tax whatsoever and getting rid of the federal welfare complex. So Don Reed will be giving us the political analysis of what he wants to transform the federal government of the United States. On July the 26th is presently open. If you'd like to speak, please furnish me with the title and a brief description of the presentation. July 26th open. Transitioning in August the 2nd. Now this is among historians, but we're going to have a political analysis of the factors that supposedly resulted in the fall of Rome, and are we seeing the same situation here in the United States, resulting in the fall of the United States? Someone seems to think that the same indications are there. That leaves open 4 dates in August. August 9, 16, 23, 30. So if you'd like to speak again, a title and a brief description is required. Thank you very much, Tim. Take it away.
When they allowed to bring those,
Yeah. All right. Okay, I guess we're ready to go. Who wants to go ahead and make an announcement?
this is an announcement. Should I use the mic?
No, you go right up there to the computer. We're gonna be on mic tonight in the thing, so just give me a second, Don, to all set now. Go ahead, Don.
All right, I just want to make an announcement that on Saturday, June 14th, there's going to be a so-called No Doomsday protest. Right. At 50 West Washington in downtown Chicago. This is going to be a protest against the dictatorship of Donald Trump. So anybody who's I'm going to be there, and anybody who is interested in supporting that cause, I invite all of you to come out.
Don, where's it at?
50. Oh, let me go back to the microphone.
Yeah, because
Washington.
Italy Center.
Gateway Center. And it's gonna be next week, probably June 14th. From when to when? Okay, who's next? Anybody else got an announcement?
Oh, somebody, you were asking about the time. Yeah. What time? It's 12. I forgot to mention the time. Sorry. It's 12 o'clock. 12 o'clock noon is the time of the protest. Sorry about that. Yeah, 12 to 2 is when the protest is scheduled. So it's 50 West Washington, and it's called No King's Day.
And they're gonna have it all over the country.
There are
Yes.
protests in other cities in the US and possibly in other countries of the world as well. I don't know. All right. Okay.
Our format tonight's gonna be a little different than normal. We have this is for the computer here. So we're gonna be basically unmiked in here because of a party we're having next door. But I'm sure you guys can see here.
Quieter.
It's shut down.
So what we're gonna do tonight is we're gonna give you maybe 10 or 15 minutes to sit down and off. Excuse me, sir.
10 minutes.
Came down the escalator, this New York building, when he had all those people applauding his presidency.
Who was that?
Donald Trump, when the Trump came down the escalator. What you don't know is most of those young people were paid $50 and free drinks. And you know it down. Dress up.
No, I didn't.
Basically, they need to come and they pay to get here. Okay, now, I don't know who's ready to start, but I think are you ready, to go, sir? We'll give you 10 or 15 minutes, and you can go talk about the accomplishments of the amazing of Donald J. Trump, our first president.
First president, and then our first, when I could solve.
Dictator.
I almost swore. I apologize. Okay, thanks. Okay, if you're ready, sir. Great dictator. The great dictator. Okay, if you guys are ready, come on up, sir, and let's give you a chance to speak. Thank you very much, and come on up, and we're ready to go.
Give you about 10, 15 minutes, whatever you need. Well, you know what I'm saying.
Actions. Targets for you, great society.
Can you speak up a little bit? There's no mic.
Why don't you put the microphone in the
Oh, my-
gooseneck?
No, that's for the computer. We're running with no microphone tonight
Oh,
because of the party next door. Just speak up a little bit so we can hear you. It's a little bit of a louder environment, but okay.
Trump's actions target the New Deal, the Great Society, and the Republican program of free trade and strong international alliances. He has taken a direct aim at law, media, public health, and culture. It has been the most consequential start to a presidential term since FDR. On the economy, Trump says his tariffs will eventually be beautiful. So far, it's been a difficult 3 months. He has imposed hundreds of billions of dollars in tariffs, including on America's 2 largest trading partners, Mexico and Canada. Chinese goods have also been taxed at a combined 145%. He's lowered that recently. Trump promised to take on what he called waste, fraud, and abuse in government. He tricked Elon Musk and heard and to lead the effort. Well, I agree with those. I mean, there was a lot of waste in government, but because of the cutting, they friction, and now that's not. These will give them all kind of county charges. All right. Firing were widespread. Programs were eliminated. Most grants were slashing $1 trillion out of the budget were pared back to $150 billion. Immigration, cracking down on illegal immigration was the main thrust of the campaign of the vice, and it is the issue where he had to play the court. Trump invoked the Alien Enemies Act of 1798 to deport migrants with limited due process. He also promised to end birthright citizenship. Under Trump, attempted border crossings was 93% fewer. And that's why I voted for it. He promised to send this invasion at the Soviet. It's coming on northern border too. They just coming at 40 million. The other countries empty their jail and send them over here. That way they don't have to pay to support them in jail. And working with good people, but they sell a lot of criminals, and we should have done that. Get it over already.
Oh, one fool at a time, Mike.
Yeah. Okay, retribution. This person you bring with him for his support. He has targeted elite universities and elite law firms. Those elite universities need to be prosecuted. They were the invaders. Got into the Chinese. Once they come and lead them, they get in these universities and they put it all somebody.
Mike,
Talking.
one fall at a time, please, Mike. Mike, one fall at a time. Mike,
Chinese system, and I know, that, the Grand Marshal Law School, she, was influenced by these Chinese, highly trained spies who come in and get on the campus and encourage these protests. And as far as the protests, the way I see that, I remember that very well. 12,000 the Jews were massacred and were warring without anything. And now when they fight back, they're considered
Fight back, it's
Mike,
Got those four.
you got one fool at a time. Let him finish. Let him finish.
At the same time, he has repeatedly called for the U.S. to annex Greenland, which is a Danish territory, to retake control of the Panama Canal and make Canadians, Canada's the 51st state. I don't agree with that. One of the things that Trump does, I don't agree, but the overwhelming issue was immigration. Something had to be done. And the other thing about that is Biden was doing all this, and he says the way Trump is saying, he didn't even look at anything. He had staffers with a pen. He was signing all these executive orders, and Biden didn't even know anything about it. Now, Trump has to prove that. But I really think that that's how they, and Biden has an open door policy. Everybody, so welcome to come in. You see what's happening in Chicago, $600 million for these targets. And we can't pay for our CCA because we're paying for Venezuelan invaders. Okay. On the courts, courts, judges, and rule of law. There's a possible constitutional crisis over Trump defying the courts. His executive orders reshaping government are facing more than 150 lawsuits on issues from fired federal workers and immigration to transgender rights. As far as the federal workers, that was a federal worker for 50 years.
I think there will come in.
I don't like the way that they're firing these federal workers. And of course, I don't agree on a lot of stuff at some point, but overall, it's better than what the Democrats want. Okay. Congress. Trump has issued numerous executive orders bypassing Congress. The officers slashing programs, jobs, and entire agencies, including the Department of Education. They've been talking about it the Department of Education. Public health, at the Department of Health and Human Services, 2,000 jobs are going so salaries and research were shut off. So, like I say, it sounds like I'm anti-Trump here, but I don't agree with the overwhelming issue.
Okay, now we're gonna go,
Okay.
Okay.
All right,
We don't like it.
all right, Mike. Since you were so anxious to rebut him, you're gonna go next. You got 10 minutes or so, so go up.
Still working on my research.
Well,
You're, all right, yeah, just, come on, where would you be in the pre-cell phone, in the
all
pre-smartphone?
right, come on up and,
Does that do it for that?
don't forget, we got you guys online too, so, all right, Mike,
Oh, boy.
come on up and,
Oh, man, every page is.
do your thing. It's a free speech and open mic tonight, so,
This is very important.
it's good. Well, go ahead.
Directly into the microphone.
Oh, okay, thanks.
Microphone doesn't work.
Microphones to the computer. Have it go on mic.
Yeah, the Zoom, the microphone, I believe, is for the Zoom people, Mike.
Three people,
It is, just,
you know,
gotta speak loud, Mike.
if they move closer, I think.
Just use your obnoxious voice and we should be able to hear you.
Hey, no personal attacks, please. Tim.
Well, yeah. All right, well, well, speak, doofus.
Hey, that's another person.
Okay, all right, I apologize. Get going, louder, sir.
All right, be solid. I hate Republicans and the Democrats, so I hope that it's play it right. Anyway, so it. Well, yeah, it's that was like the lesser of the evils, and they both did it. Kamala, the girls were bad. Well, Trump doesn't like things. They can't take vote. They haven't did that. Trump, it's not really going on. And you guys, studying in university and taking your money away because of some immigration thing. No, but what? It's destroying the First Amendment. There are students and professors and others that are going sit there. Yeah, are protesting a genocide started by Genocide Joe and continued. Murders of hundreds of thousands of Palestinians, Philippines, said one way can. And then it's for a criminal, expects to stay for everything. You're already.
Is it
And they left for the influence. Universities that will not like that will not stifle to amendment free speech rights. It is very important. And Trump needs that with anti-First Amendment and several other comments. So that's a problem. And when we have an anti-copy, that probably anti-constitution part of the republic. So I went to the White House website doing my research. I'll just briefly go over all the big wins by the big, ugly, beautiful, bailout bill for the rich. It delivers the largest tax cut in American history. Yeah, for the rich. The Republicans are saying, yes, it's a big tax cut, but they don't say it's good. They say it's a big tax cut. When most of it's going to the rich, it isn't a big tax cut. That's a lot. Makes that permanent. Which is wrong.
We can't hear too well.
Mike. That's it.
Is that microphone even working?
It's working. You might just Mike isn't speaking loud enough.
Why isn't it on the
Speak up,
snake then?
Mike. Yes, it's working. Mike, there's no speakers coming from. We're speaking without a mic. that mic is picking you up. You're just going real low in your voice. We can barely hear you here. Speak like you're talking to the room, so everybody can hear you. That's for the computer.
That speaker for.
This is a low volume. I got some amplification for the speakers, but not for you guys. We're going direct and through the things. Just keep talking and speak
It's
loud.
just humbling.
So what happened with the house, I think the aggregate economy, and then they divided by the amount of people, and then they say, they're going Elon Musk and all the trillionaires in, and like, making that, it's part of the whole aggregate. So now, so if it's an average in $1,000 tax cut for the average American, most of that is already a high end. So do I. No tax, Trump for, so that's like 1,000 or 2,000. I got that helps. Child tax credit, that's a good idea. Okay. That's the case. Well, not really. It eliminates a lot of people. Any benefits for millions of people on this? We should all go and die. It's the kind of country here now. The work requirement, we're gonna make people that are 75, 85, 95 work. Get SNAP and Medicaid. So good luck with that. Get your resume ready. I'll be getting my lunch. Ready to join the workforce again. With the government, you gotta go deliver mail more for the next 10 years. Work requirement. For all your government benefits. I'm struck with the nuclear reactor, following the nuclear reactor. We got about it. Okay. The green scam is over. Tax credits from flowing to China. We made hundreds of billions of dollars from freeing the scam tax credit. Tax credit. Tax credits from flowing to China. That's right. Oh my God, the voice speaking. I'm sitting in the here. The nuclear wall is going to. Versus electric vehicle mandate that left radical climate activists to set the standard for American energy. Burn baby, turn, drill baby. Moved down oil in Alaska, the North Pole. Oil wars, more oil wars. America needs more oil. I'll read that again to you. First, electric vehicle medical climate activist. There's a standard for American energy. You're a rat. Yeah. Okay, wants to hear more about Trump. And it ends Biden's war on American energy. Under Biden, oil was being drawn up more than ever. What? Biden had a war on energy. Probably half the country. He didn't have to fool all the people. All the
Louder, Mike.
Trump played half the country. So he fooled half the people all the time. Right, not all the people all the time. But he got just enough because he was in the TV game show. It had a popular name. The very good market. Like me and our biggest sign downtown Chicago has guess who's name on it?
Trump's.
That's the biggest sign I see downtown. Downtown all the time. Yeah. Did you say? Yeah. So if somebody comes from Europe or God knows where. Well, who owns the city? He's a great marketer. And he just barely won. That's no number. Like $1 million or $2 million. So anyway, I'll finish with this. It's just really heartening to know that checks and balances are still working. The judges, the court, politicians, honest, not the filthy 500. Russ doesn't like JD. What's his name? Maybe that. No.
Richard.
Richard. Russ doesn't like him, but everybody's got to fight Trump. If your company has a good idea here and there, they're fine. We got rid of both. We got rid of women and men and women together. Men and women in sports. Good idea. Biden was asleep. But when Trump has all these bad ideas, including continuing these wars, including stealing taxpayer money. Last I heard, it's about $4 trillion in city. Or the Republicans are going to steal while reducing all these benefits. So when Trump has bad ideas, Republicans have bad ideas. You got to fight all the way. That's why you really never want to. Because they always screw the middle class. They screw the Lord. Just don't, I know Kamala was and stupid and woke and you have bad people. Biden had bad. I know it was bad. It's probably the last decent president we had. I know you're going to say, oh, you're a Democrat, but I mean, Bush and he spent 5 or 10 trillion on oil wars. Obama got tricked into bailing out Wall Street for 10 trillion. He was dumb. He found his fake, he enriched people with 5 trillion a year, 5 trillion a year. Biden, was okay. He didn't freaking get rich a lot. He made damn sure to survive forever. That's good. But really, it's been a while. Bush Senior was an okay president. Reagan was okay. But it's probably been the last maybe 10 years. Landed. So anyway, just fight. Right? Fight Trump and Republican. That is it. All right.
Oh, it's just.
Any questions?
No, Mike, we're gonna get to our next category.
Question, can I go next?
Yes.
Okay, great.
All right, Don, let's welcome Don up and.
All right.
I think I was just rambling. I
Okay.
don't have anything to say.
So.
We'll get to online next, Charlie.
All right. I guess the topic for this evening is Trump, and it's an open mic event. I was listening to what this gentleman here said. My friend Mike Lehman had to say. I'm a little bit. I would say most people would probably consider me a little bit more left wing than I would say that there are two things the two things that are highest priority for me in terms of politics are number one, democracy, number two, human rights. And by human rights, what I'm talking about is things like freedom of speech, freedom of press, freedom
Hello, it's Tim.
due process. So you can't just get arbitrarily arrested and imprisoned by the government. So those are the things that matter to me.
No, I haven't.
Because every other
It's mine.
high-speed rail
Yes, I'm still here.
or tax policy or tariff. The common people have no input unless the government's democracy. And also if you have a theoretical democracy, but you get thrown in jail for saying the wrong thing, then it's not really a democracy. So now Donald Trump fails on both of those tests, democracy and human rights. I'll tell you why. But first of all,
I will.
his views on his views on the issues are roughly identical to the views of the Ku Klux Klan.
All right, great.
Wear a white bed sheet over his head. And now he's so basically he is a racist. He also, by the way, even though he is not particularly religious, he's theoretically Christian. He was baptized at Presbyterian Church in the Beach. So that's based on how he claims to be a Christian. Anyway, but he sides with the Christian fundamentalists in the Republican Party who want to make the U.S. a Christian nation. I believe in equal rights because since I believe in human rights, I believe in human rights for all people, no matter what race or religion or gender or sexual orientation they have. And so that means that and Trump and the Republicans fail on every one of those tests because the Republican Party used to be racist. It used to be the party of Lincoln, but the Republican Party today is a racist party. They are dominated by Christian fundamentalists who do not tolerate who oppose other religions. They believe if other religions are allowed to exist in the United States, it must be as second-class citizens at the best. And of course, I don't need to mention their opposition to women's rights, and of course their opposition to LGBT rights. So on that score, so I'm completely opposed. I generally oppose Republicans. Well, I haven't voted Republican in the past. In general, I oppose them, and yeah, particularly the party in its current form, and I especially oppose Donald Trump. Not all Republicans are anti-democracy, but Trump is, and he's demonstrated. I get to the second thing, besides human rights, the subject of democracy. Trump will not accept the results of an election that he doesn't agree with. In other words, if Trump doesn't agree with the result of an election, if his side didn't win the election, he's going to say the election is rigged. Why will he say that? No, only one reason: because his side didn't win it. This is the kind of talk that can bring democracy to an end. When you get a government in power that rejects an election where, let's say, their own side loses, and they say, well, that election didn't turn out the way we wanted it to, so it must have been rigged, so we're not going to accept this election. Trump did that in 2020. The only reason that Trump left office and that Biden took his place is because Trump was unsuccessful in his attempt to use force to stay in power. So this guy, and I'm going to tell you something. Now that he's president, he is not going to leave. I mean, he'll die eventually, but he is not going to leave office of his own free will. All right, and that is what right, and so. This is a real hard thing for Americans to admit, but we are living in a dictatorship already. This is not the United States was democracy until 2025, and now, as of January 20th, it's a dictatorship. So, and that is why I oppose Donald Trump. Okay, that's all I have to say about that.
Okay. Does anybody Charlie, do you want to go, or anybody online?
Yeah, I'll go.
Okay, Charlie, hang on. Let me get you up on full screen. And we'll get you going here. All right, give me a second. All right, Charlie, go ahead.
All right. Yeah, it's been 10 years that we've officially had Trump on the political scene as a viable candidate. And the one thing that distinguishes Trump from the other presidents and the other individuals in Republican Party in general is that the United States, one of the hallmarks was that there was always an orderly transition in power. The true test in government comes at this crossroad, when you transition from one leadership to another. And is it accomplished according to the bylaws? And we heard a little bit from Don that, yes, he will not accept elections. In the past, and I've studied a lot of American history, and particularly the presidents, we basically had one replaced another. That doesn't mean they had exactly the same policies, but one replaced the other without any significant incident. until this guy came along. And that is the hallmark. There's two elements that, yes, they don't want to play by the rules. And they come up with, they don't even like to acknowledge the truth. They say there's alternative facts, or they try to put a spin on it. But it is disruptive to the transition from mode to another. It's going to say, indicates to you, are they going to abide by the framework that was established in 1789 as to how the government of the United States operates? It's clearly indicated that they have no intention whatsoever to abide by any, what is a term that I use very often in my service as a government employee. It's just according to law, rule, or regulation. And they had no adherence, no intention whatsoever. That's what I mean. You end up with endless court battles, which are totally unnecessary because they're testing what is going to work and what isn't. Let's just try it and let the burden is placed upon the so-called establishment to say this is not authorized. These actions are not authorized. They're not in accord with law, rule, or regulation. They don't pass that test. But then if you have no disregard, and it's as quote, anything goes, anything that I want, so how do you operate the government? You could say the government is inefficient. No, the government operates very well. I have no problem with how the government operates. It's methodical fashion in an orderly fashion. That's what the people expect. They don't want, whimsical types of approaches to government. They want stability. That's the one characteristic that the government, when it does act, it acts accordance with law, rule, regulation. But these guys don't want to do it. Now, we had indications of this. They put out something called Project 2025, which most of us, at least on the left and center and the left, dismissed as kind of lunacy. And we just said, this is just really crazy stuff. I wish I had a more educated term, but it was like lunacy. And we dismissed it when we should have been preparing for it, preparing to counter it. Now, okay, the second fault that I'm getting into that I can speak of with some degree of knowledge is not only did they follow no law, rule, or regulation, they wanted to change the very infrastructure. This is important. Trump is tampering with the very infrastructure. That's what I mean, the election process. And he's also tampering with the infrastructure of administration of law. And by doing this, he was dismantling the federal workforce. By the very agencies, there's 10, 20 agencies that constitute the government of the United States. Well, first of all, he put lunatics in charge. People that had no other purpose than to dismantle those agencies and not comply with their mission. They had no intention whatsoever to comply with them. It's not just the Department of Education. Trump was operating, and I think there's some validity to this, that the government somehow, he had some conspiratorial notion that the government was being infiltrated by Obama Biden guys and would not administer anything that he indicated. There's some reason to believe this is why he was not able to really do very much, because he met with resistance that's theorized by the deep state of the federal civil service workforce. Now, a way to counter this, Trump that's what I mean. Now, what Trump is doing is, people don't realize it, is that each entity, agency of the government, each department had maybe 10 or 15 minutes, the allotted time that we're talking now, to justify whether they could continue to exist or should be closed. And he had teams of, I think, 3 or 4 of his loyalists who would listen to the presentations and vote either yes or no. Regardless, that is the only thing. Without appeal, you had 10 minutes to determine whether or not that function of the government continued or was gotten rid of. This is pure lunacy. These are entities established through a lengthy process, democratic process, by the United States Congress. This is presently, I'm not certain to what extent this is being tested, but it has to be. So you're changing not only you're changing who's in charge, but you're changing who they're in charge of. And you change the character of the government. One of the things they're looking to do is every organization has a chart, how decisions are made and things are accomplished. One of the things that Trump is implementing is called the stovetop. Everything filters through the top for final say. It's a very monarchical kind of system. I don't think that's what the founding fathers intended ever. They did establish a republic to put layers and so forth, but nothing to approximate a stovetop administration. So that's what you happen now. He's allegedly cutting the workforce, and it's a little like eating your seed corn. These career federal employees. Now, one of the things he targeted were the federal unions. The Republican parties never liked it. They pretty much were effective in getting rid of unions in the private sector, but it bothered them for some reason that there still were public sector unions. Now, these public sector unions, at least in the federal government, I'd say are very restricted in what they can or cannot negotiate. They cannot negotiate the means, method, and technology of performing work. If you like, I used to call them, and I was an officer of them, still am, I used to call them sissy unions. But that really wasn't fair. But they were restricted by management rights clauses as to what they could negotiate or what they could try to influence or change. So they were left partially in a defensive mode, some degree on affecting changes. When there were changes in the government, they did have some input into this, sometimes very great, sometimes not at all. But they really were not in any fashion anything that I would say intruded upon the efficiency of the government. Far from it. The unions had established, so you don't realize this, only since 1978. And they were hemmed in pretty hard by that legislation, which I don't even think recognized. I used to say I didn't even think it was enabling legislation. As a matter of fact, I used to say that to a large extent, unions in the federal government are still illegal. But people, I would say this is an extreme position. But yes, you're handcuffed, unlike the private sector where anything goes. But in the federal sector, that's not how it was. There were very strict rules on management rights, employee rights, and union rights. And those were defined, an endless amount of debate and court cases to define it over the decades since 1978. Getting rid of them is also an indication what Trump thinks of the working person. That's what I mean. And you're talking about human rights. Employment rights are a human right where you work. It's a vital element of your life. If you have no rights where you work, I doubt very much if you suddenly have rights when you cross the portal, you suddenly are diminished with no rights whatsoever and no one to act on your behalf. So you're subject to arbitrary and capricious decisions, or you're terminated. Either compliance or not. Yes, the trials of dictatorship, as you see now, I've woven the path. Yes, dictatorship is in the sense if all of the federal workforce has to do exactly and precisely what Trump says he wants, or else they're terminated, you are in effect affecting a dictatorship. So that's where we're at. All right, thank you very much. I'd like to hear what some of you other guys have to say. Thank you.
Okay, who's next? All right, go ahead and get up there. Yeah, gotta talk loud. I don't have any amplification tonight except for I got some for the computer, but they've asked us not to use the mic tonight because of that one's for the computer. That's for that's for the Zoom. No, that's for your Zoom mic. So just speak loudly so we can hear you in a row.
I wanted to. Very sorry about that. Somebody asked me, well, if nuclear power could be made safe, would you then be in favor of nuclear power? I think it was Mike asked that question. Yeah. And so I couldn't come up with an answer except I can't imagine. So I tried to look into this, and I have found that businesses recognize four basic forces in the universe, and they think there might be one that they haven't been able to find. And these basic forces are implanted by particles. The basic forces are these: gravity, electromagnetic, the strong force holds the nucleus together, the nucleus of the atom, and the weak force that holds the nucleus of the atom together. And I don't understand the strong force and the weak force, but I don't know what particles or what influence gravity. Electromagnetism, we have the electromagnetic spectrum from gamma rays to infrared and beyond. And for that spectrum is the wave particles that implement electromagnetic forces. Then there's the strong force that holds the atom, the nucleus of the atom together. And this is a big history to me, but this is talk about nuance and quark and stuff like that hold the nucleus of the atom together. And these are the particles that implement the forces that hold the nucleus of the atom together. So those are the four basic forces that physicists recognize in the forces that hold them together are because I know you can recognize that there are certain isotopes that decay, and they decay from the nucleus, and this nucleus changes. It shoots out gamma rays, which are part of the electromagnetic spectrum, and it shoots out neutrons, and it shoots out various other craft and stuff. Plus nuclei of smaller atoms. So if you were majoring in physics, you wouldn't have to memorize the decay chain of uranium as it moves from one isotope to the next, and finally ends as lead. So we're talking about uranium-238. It decays gradually and finally becomes lead. In the meantime, it goes through a series of isotopes, none of which are stable until you get to lead. So they all irradiate. They all put out gamma rays. They put out various kinds of isotopes that are all radioactive. My point here is that when you ask me, would I be in favor of nuclear power if it could be made? What I'm trying to explain is nuclear power cannot be created. This is the product of the basic forces of the universe that have been around for how long, ever long the universe has been around. And it reminds me of an old peanut cartoon that I believe I saw at some point, where Lucy was talking about, oh, isn't it that Newton was surprised by acid falling down. And he explained to us that we stick to the earth. But why do we stick to the earth? And somebody from off the train yells, it's the law of gravity. And then Lucy looks back and she says, well, what made us stick to the earth before the law was passed?
Right.
Well, you can't change gravity. You can't change the electromagnetic spectrum. You can't change the drawn force that holds the things together. The force that holds the things together, because they've been around as long as gravity at least. And when atoms decay by radioactivity, that is a natural product. That is a natural product. That is a natural process that is part of the way the universe is constructed. Just like gravity, just like the electromagnetic spectrum. We have nothing to do with it. It is a simple fact of existence. So when you have a nuclear reactor, and you put in that nuclear reactor fissionable of material, and you bombard those fissionable materials with a neutron, they are going to explode. It is not a process that is under the control of any human beings. It is a natural, basic process of the universe. It will produce dangerous isotopes and dangerous gamma rays and other forces, and we can't do anything about that. And that is why nuclear power cannot be made, because nuclear power is something that human beings have harnessed to produce electricity without being able to harness or change the basic laws of physics, the basic forces that run the universe are in that nuclear reactor, and what it produces, we cannot change. So we take the fuel, which is and probably 200 or 300 radioactive isotopes, and we take the spent fuel and we put it in a big old pool of boron. And the reason we put it in a pool of boron water is that it's still radioactive. It is still putting out neutrons. It is still creating huge amounts of heat. That's one of the products of the decay of an atom. It produces a lot of heat. And so we put boron water into the pool. and the boron absorbs neutrons. So the neutrons can't hit the other atoms and cause them to break up like they do in the reactor, which is what we want because it produces heat. And that's what we use to boil water. And to boil water so that the dynamic produces electricity. So we take this fuel, which is very, very dangerous stuff. A human being cannot stand close to one of these assemblies of spent fuel for any time. I mean, they only transfer these by machine because if the human gets close to it, the guy's going to be dead. And they put them inside, cut up, and the cat has, okay, we start at the center where the fuel assembly is.
Okay.
On the outside of that, we have a neutron absorber. I don't know what that is. Neutron absorber. So
Graphite.
could be graphite, yeah. Very much. Okay. So we've got a tube. We've got a septic in the middle, then the neutron absorber, and then a steel, and then a layer of lead, because that is regular. And then the next thing is another seal. And there were three.
Okay.
Living in this map. The outside of it is about 15 minutes of concrete. And so you have this great big thing that originally it's not too much because of all those here, but it's still the region. And you have to keep the inside of it cool. So you have a device, and then the air circulates from the bottom to the top of the and then what's coming out of the top of it is radioactive. So this is how we handle the spent fuel because we cannot change the fact that the spent fuel is made of radioactive isotopes and it is going to irradiate. It is going to radiation that is dangerous and kill all time. And so I don't want to stop here because I have more to say that I don't know about.
Well, the thing is that this whole thing was supposed to be about Trump, but you just changed the topic.
What kind of question?
Go ahead and ask the question, Di.
This question today. What's the policy of the Trump administration on nuclear energy?
Oh, yeah. Okay. So I'm going to try to get into the right second.
Okay.
And the War Department,
Hit the next person. Oh, I'm back.
Yeah, sure. Okay, you want me to kind of take the con? Okay. I don't know how to operate this machine,
Worry about it. Just.
but you want me to just kind of be moderator?
Yeah.
Okay, sure.
Just.
That's cool.
Sorry, Jen.
Okay, okay.
so the War Department is probably in charge of the 4 branches or 5 of the oh, I was trying to be. I forgot that.
It's
The Marine Corps, the Air Force, the Coast Guard, and now all of those entities have a charter, and I think Charlie that Charlie mentioned that agencies of the U.S. government have charter. Now the charter of branches of the military branches, their job is to fight war. If you start, they have no interest in protecting country. There is nothing that says we are here to protect the home. No, they're there to fight battles and to win wars. It's like a coast guard. That actually a sub. If you go through the outlines of the coast guard chart, and they say something about guarding the coast. But anyway, the War Department, this job is to win the battle of this person, and they are not protecting the home. They will come into the homeland and jeopardize areas in the homeland in order to produce the materials they need or that they think they need to win wars. And so they go into the homeland, which is our home, and they create entities that are filthy, that produce a lot of radiation, that pollute the air and the water and the soil, in order to produce the materials that they need to wars and battle. And if you tune into the Nuclear Energy Information Service with the have a person who is going to talk about what it's like to live in a sacrifice family for the War Department, where
Hello.
where
You're in.
Yes. The material that is needed for war, not needed to protect the homeland, and protecting the homeland doesn't even count that they're jeopardizing the homeland in order to produce the material that they believe is necessary to fight war.
Okay, now,
Would be about Southern Ohio and Central Ohio, where there is
there's Jan.
and people are dying of cancer. Hudson County, Ohio.
I don't know how I make it louder. Let's see if I can make it louder over here.
The War Department came in there and started putting in entities to produce radioactive material. And now they have one of the highest rates of cancer in the United States, definitely the highest rate of cancer in Ohio. So I don't think this is going to change. And I was hoping that this would be the tie-in to the Trump administration, because the Trump administration is not inhibiting the War Department from sacrificing the homeland so that they can produce the material they need to fight the wars. And in their charter, there is nothing about protecting us. They're jeopardizing us in order to produce. And I can go more.
Okay. Then let's thank her and get our next. Who wants to go next?
No green.
Who's going next?
Yeah.
No more under Trump or one.
All right, we still got an open mic. How about you? You want to go next? He already went. But he can go again if we're not gonna have an abundance of speakers. You wanna, who wants to go next? It's okay, that's go ahead, Mike. Then I guess I'm gonna go. You guys hear me okay back here and everything else? All right, good. I consider Mr. Donald J. Trump and his present administration one of the most dangerous things that have happened in the United States. Not just because of his stance on immigration, which I heard people are upset about because I think they had too fast. And that's one of the reasons why people got upset. And I agree that something needed to be done at the border. But I'll tell you something, they had a bill in 1996 that would have solved all these problems. They would have put an emphasis on enforcement, an emphasis on bringing people in through illegal means, and it was tanked under the Clinton administration by the Republicans. We recently had, 7 months before the election, a bipartisan bill worked out by 2 senators on each side with compromises, and Trump said, I don't want this passed because I need this as an election deal. Now, Trump said that he would bring in only to get rid of those illegals who committed crimes. What are we seeing today? The Department of Homeland Security is not even decent enough to have the agents identify themselves, conduct a proper arrest. No, they have to do it with a mask. And Trump's doing what we call Nazi type of trials for fear and intimidation. We brought those so-called people deportees to the prison in Nicaragua. El Salvador, I'm sorry. Those videos were more like ISIS recruitment videos for the terrorist group. What Trump is doing is nothing more than a show. He wants to get rid of people all over the place. And the point of the matter is, we spent all this money, integrate these guys, and most of them were working, they're starting to build lives. When Reagan had the last comprehensive immigration reform back in 1986, there was a way for people, if they paid a little bit of money, to get themselves on a legal pathway to citizenship. That's happened 3 times since World War II ended, where there's been a grace period for those who've been here to stay and become citizens and get out of the shadows. To me, that's what's needed again, would have saved our government. Tons of money on enforcement, tons of money on the immigration facilities, particularly if they're interested in saving money. Why not just let these guys come in, pay a fee, get legalized, get them to pay taxes, get out of the shadows, and become fully functional citizens in the United States? There would be some vetting requirements, and then if they refuse to do so, or you find a legal means, there are ways of enforcement. So as of right now, for the illegals, and Trump did during his administration. And you would hardly heard about it because he was doing it in a upstanding and legal process manner. That's what we're not seeing with the Trump administration. You're seeing a man who wants to be a wannabe dictator. He's using their presidency to get rid of his enemies and take revenge on the American people. This so-called tariff war makes no sense. The Supreme Court recently, the courts recently ruled that it's tariffs were illegal. The Supreme Court's put a stay on it. And all of a sudden, the world is starting to go crazy. We need free, fair, and open trade. We had it under Obama, and even under Biden. And if you guys think that the world should be on to a Democrat is all bad, let me remind you that we had record low unemployment during Biden's years. We had the biggest creation of job history ever since under Biden. Yes, we've had some inflation, but it was coming down. And it was not, and if Trump had just left things alone, he'd have probably kept moving. We were still the best economy in the world, especially after COVID. And with many people, you're saying, I'm not here to Biden to death. Frankly, I would trust Biden's advisors more than I would Donald J. Trump. He's got several incompetent people running his administration and his thing. Remember, this guy is a crook and a liar and a cheat. He's been doing this all his life, and he's going to bankrupt the American people. Let me give you a little bit of an example of what's going on with Trump internationally. They're laughing. The MAGA conservative candidate in Canada was grossly defeated, and John Carney came in as a centrist and a central banker. Canada's pissed because we're threatening their sovereignty. Why wouldn't they be pissed? There was another country in Australia that again, a certain MAGA candidate trying to come up through it. They routedly defeated him. Just a second, I got to somebody had Zoom here.
This is the whole crash truck.
Okay,
People will think.
my point of the matter is this. Thank God we got a court system right out of China. Thank God right now we're gonna have midterms fairly soon.
Checks and balances work.
Checks and balances do work. But right now, even the voice of America that was around the world that made America great, that talked about the American view, that spread it out, Trump shut it down. Guess who's paying for it now? Europe. Europe is actually financing Voice of America overseas. And the thing is, he's also talking about shutting down National Public Radio and the PBN system by clawing back the funds. I think that is, if there's anything that you want to do, is you want a good agency that keeps a good, well-balanced news. Many people say NPR are somewhat leftist. I think myself that they're not. But you also have your Fox News, which is a heavily.
Well, that's a private sector company.
It's a private sector company, but I'll tell you right now, they are very biased. They're part of what I call the official truth organization, PC. Trump is also very incompetent because if he were a good dictator, he'd be bringing these things in slowly, surely, and just doing it incrementally at a little bit at a time. But no. And if you look at what he's doing, he's following the Project 2025 through the letter that was written by the Heritage Foundation. There are people who are coming out of here, and he's not going to be around forever. Because I believe Trump's also starting to lose his mental capacity for his judgment. And what he said, everything's a scam. Everybody's trying to take advantage of us. Honestly, I don't think so. I really think that Trump and his cohorts are a clear danger. The faster we get them out of here, the better off they're going to be. Maybe they should invoke the 25th Amendment. Vance ain't much better, but he's certainly a lot more thinking than Trump is. And look at how fast these guys change, especially with the juvenile fight between Musk and Trump. Politicians just don't act this way. Our national leaders need to be diplomatic. They need to be seasoned professionals. We need to be people who can govern a country. And when you have that, you have people like Carney, like Schoenbaum in Mexico, even like Bukele in El Salvador. The reason Bukele has his big prisons like that is he had well over 10% of his population in gangs. And the country was fighting with gangs, and he had to do something to stop them. Now, he did use emergency powers, but you can't walk from one seat to another without getting an extortion being paid. You almost have to crack down. Now, El Salvador's murder rate's going way down. There's a lot of people in prison right now that don't have due process. But hopefully, they'll calm things down after a little bit of time. I don't think Bukele's going to be as bad as we think. But in conjunction with Trump, it's not pretty because we're actually paying a contract. I was so speaking at prison in El Salvador. Maybe you guys didn't know that our secret government funds going to do it. How was the guy from the guy that been brought back? He was brought back because an arrest warrant was signed out. There was arrest and Trump had saved it. Simply flatly the Supreme Court. The point of the matter is this. I think Trump is goofy. He's dangerous. He is a convicted felon. And what the hell are we doing with somebody who claims to be the law and order president, but yet at the same time is now offering a $5 million gold card with instant citizenship into the United States without documentation. To me, it says, if you have the money, you're white, you're from an established Nordic country, you're welcome here. If not, get out of here. This exclusion of Chinese students, of Indian students, and of other people for the student exchange program is going to be the ruination of our country. Because even back then, there was a guy by the name of John Vanderveer Bush, who was involved in intelligence in the 50s, who was saying, we need the research done here. We need the innovations done here. The only way to do that is through the best of the brightest. And what he's doing against Harvard, all in the name of anti-Semitism, is crazy. Now, for me in Israel, I don't like what Hamas did. Israel had a right to defend itself. But now the very Jewish race that was persecuted under the Nazis have become the very thing, or at least the leaders of Israel have become the very thing that they campaigned against during World War II. And the thing is that I hate to say it, but I hate hypocrisy. I hate the thing. Now, the next question is, how do you solve the problem for a dictator without replacing him with another regime? Well, a lot of us have got to go out and protest. We got to fight this regime. But there is something far more critical. Mankind has a propensity towards sin, towards evil, towards not doing the right thing. And without a good moral code and a moral compass, particularly when I look at a Christian religion itself, you need this to bring a country and a people in compliance with some basic human decency. I think that when we got rid of the courtesy and the manners that we used to have, that went a long way to dehumanizing the enemy, to dehumanizing other immigrant groups, to dehumanizing others. And I think right now, with this new pope in the Catholic Church, is going to come a long way to bring a spirit of inclusivism and love thy neighbor as thyself. And again, I'll conclude with this. Love God with all your heart, mind, and soul, and love your neighbor as yourself. And even if you're atheist, surely your fellow man, your fellow human being, life is worth benefiting. And besides, even if you're racist, you're losing out on your own markets. You're losing out on your own stuff. I just heard a piece this morning on the radio about advertising going to disabled people and how advertisers are not catering to that market. There's billions of dollars in that market to get some products moving. Maybe people haven't thought about it. Maybe people haven't done this before. But if you think about it, racism doesn't make you money. Inclusiveness, market pressure, market resources, and other things that give products to people where they need is what capitalism does. It's a system based on trust. What we don't have right now is a capitalistic system that gives it. We have oligarchy. We have a few at the top when they're just dictating what's going on. We're still not that bad off, though. I mean, we're still in America. We still have cars, roads, things. There's people who are having trouble making it. You still have a little bit of a system. Here you go. But again, if this big, beautiful bill is passed for the benefit of those super human oligarchs, I think we're in for some trouble. I mean, it seems like every time the Republicans do that, it's right there. They cut taxes and they raise the deficit. Every time the Democrats came in, they had to fix problems that they started.
Yeah, this is right.
After 8 years of a Democrat in office, we get the Republicans coming. First it's the Tea Party, next it's the Trump administration, next it's everything that's corrupt about or things. I think though that realistically, if I was, I'm now thinking, I used to be a regular Republican. I'm Democratic now, they're very open market, they're very open with things, but there needs to be rules and laws. I'm not sure about, how far or how fast they go, but again, the bottom line is this. We need to fight evil. We need to fight injustice. And we need to value our fellow man as we value ourselves. Thank you. All right, we still got plenty of time for more anti-Trump stuff. All right, is that Jake with his hand up?
Yeah.
Jake, all right, Jake, I'm going to let you speak next. So go ahead, Jake. Go ahead, Jake. You're on, Jake.
Hi. Can you hear me now?
Yes, it's rebuttal
Yeah.
time, and we're open
Okay.
mic.
Oh, rebut. Oh, this is open mic. Okay. All right. Yeah. A lot of what I had to say has already been said. Yes, Trump is a threat to democracy. No question about it. He tried to overturn a legally decided election in 2020, and trying to shut down both public television and national public radio. In the case of Channel 11 and public television, he claims that they're both are a 501c3, and they violated the rules by supposedly they're biased towards the Democrats. I don't buy the argument, but apparently they just lost in the lower courts. The lower court, I guess I'm not sure which court it is, but they ruled in Trump's favor, saying that yes, that they're too heavily biased towards the Democrats. I don't buy the argument. They're just basically stating the news as they say it. So there are some commentary shows which tend to be more weighted towards the Democrats, but so what? They're stating their opinion, and they have the right to do so, even if they're a 501c3. It's not an endorsement. It's just a state. Right? It's not an endorsement. 501c3 status says that you cannot endorse a candidate. They're not endorsing anyone. They're just calling the shots as they see them, as any news station does. But anyway, that's Trump's excuse for trying to shut them down. He's not shutting them down entirely. What he's doing is he's withholding federal funding for them. But yeah, I think what he's doing, Charlie said it best, that what he's doing is going to be a disaster. He's creating tremendous amount of unemployment at a time when there are there's limited employment in the private sector. He's going to create a tremendous amount of unemployment. These people who are working for the federal government are taxpayers. Every one of them pays taxes into the system. You lay off that many people. How many people is he planning to lay off? Several hundred or 1,000 or what? Every person who's laid off from the federal government, and I don't know if he's even giving them severance pay, but anyone who's laid off and can't find a job in the private sector, what happens? They end up instead of being taxpayers, they end up going
automatically. Okay.
Hello.
I'm waiting.
Hello.
Tell the waitress she's paid.
Instead of being taxpayers, they're going on the public dole and becoming dependent on unemployment insurance. If they can't find a job within a year, they end up becoming dependent on public aid. And then if they own a house, or if they're a house or a condo, or if they're renting, what happens? They end up losing their housing. They end up losing their buying power. Anyone who's working, even if they're working for the public, if they're working for the public sector, it means they're paying money into the system every time they go out and buy something. They're paying taxes that way, and they lose the ability to do so. they can only, they lose their spending power unless they have savings. They end up having to dip into their savings. We had an economic crisis in 2008 where all of a sudden the bottom fell out from under the economy. There was a record number of home foreclosures and a record number of bankruptcies, business failures, and I think that's what we're looking at here. We're gonna have another big economic crisis that could end up being worse than what happened in 2008. And then people will go. The next two elections could go to the Democrats, but I'm not crossing my fingers. Trump will probably engage in voter suppression policies. I'm not sure if it'll work if the unemployment rate and the economic. The other thing is he came in saying that he's going to get rid of inflation, and a lot of economists, both liberal and conservative, are predicting that with his tariffs in place, that's going to increase inflation tremendously. Remember back before the free trade, when George Bush Sr. was in office, before the free trade agreements were implemented, he said to the auto industry was in trouble. He said to the automobile industry in this country, he said, we gave you protectionism and all you did was raise your prices. That kind of protectionism means that there's less competition. If there's less competition, then it means that the companies that are left tend to raise the prices. The price of insurance, the cost of inflation, the cost of doing business will go up, and that'll just increase inflation and not decrease it. Anyway, I'm writing a new musical. It's called Springtime for Donald. It's kind of like the Producers. It's bad Mel Brooks. I'll let you know when it happens. Oh, also one quickly, just a quick announcement. Our friend Sid Cohen passed away a couple of weeks ago. The memorial service hasn't been set up yet. I'll keep you posted when I hear something.
Oh, my God.
Okay, Ernie, yeah, Sid passed. Ernie, unmute. I got you muted, so go ahead and you're on though. Just turn your sound back on. I muted you earlier.
There, can you hear me now?
So you can.
Can you? Okay, good. Yeah. Anyway, I don't know how much time I have because we had trouble getting.
Plenty.
What?
About 10 minutes or so. Take your time.
I can probably cover it pretty well. And then, yeah, as far as Trump, I've said this before and I'll say it again because it's important. And I'm, I want to make sure everybody understands that this whole tariff business is primarily a way for him to shift tax burden from middle class tax or from high income taxpayers to middle level taxpayers. He can't necessarily get away with just simply changing the rates. So if he shifts the tax burden this way, he can get away with it because essentially, anyway, so okay, a tariff is in fact a tariff is a sales tax, which is a regressive tax. That means it affects lower income people more than middle and higher income people, and also lower income people who are paying no income tax now will pay more because they'll be paying these higher taxes to buy the regular things they buy that happen to be imported. That's the biggest problem as I see it. Another big problem with Trump is that he's pardoning anybody that helps him, and he goes after legally anybody who does not. He pardoned all of the January 7th people. Many of them should have been pardoned because they just were swept into the thing. But there were many people that did a lot of damage, injured people, etc., did property damage, and those people should not have been pardoned. But what Trump is saying, if you do this kind of thing for me, I'll take care of you. You'll be pardoned. On the other hand, he's taking work away from the law firms that were not favoring him in particular. I mean, he's the most unethical president that we've ever had, probably. And he's the law firm. Oh, and now Elon Musk, who was his big buddy, now he's going to take away all of his contracts too, because Elon Musk said some nasty things about him, which would probably do. I really want to hear about the Epstein files. We probably never will, and it doesn't really matter. That's not the if Trump did all kinds of things with little children, that's not necessarily the worst things he's done. He's ruining the country. So that's my view on that. The biggest, the other big thing is my Helsinki theory. You may remember in his first term, there was a summit meeting between Putin and Trump in Helsinki. And the only people in the room when they talked for a couple of hours was Putin, Trump, and a couple of interpreters. And it is my suspicion that what happened there is they made a deal. And the deal was this: Putin gets Europe, and Trump gets the Western Hemisphere, certainly North America. And she wasn't in on the meeting from China, but they probably said, well, we'll give him Asia, okay? And that's why one of the reasons he doesn't really want Ukraine to win, because he figures Putin's going to take over all of Europe sooner or later anyway, or not Putin himself, because he's old and he's not going to live that long. But his followers who are of the same way of thinking will want to take over all of Europe, and that's kind of what the deal they made was. I believe it. Obviously, I can't prove that, but a lot of the behavior of all of those people kind of indicates it, because Putin, when Trump was talking about taking over Greenland, Putin should have gone crazy, but he didn't, because Greenland is closer to Russia than it is to the United States, or maybe not to Maine and a few places, but it's closer to Russia, the major cities of Russia, than to the United States. That should have bothered him a lot. It didn't bother him, because he's got a deal. Greenland in the Western Hemisphere goes to Trump. Okay, so anyway, we'll see if my Helsinki theory holds up in the long run. Right now, Trump is bad mouthing Putin, but that could be part of an act, or it could be that their agreement in Helsinki is falling apart. The other thing that bothers me a great deal about Putin is, not Putin, about Trump, is his handling of Gaza, Israel, and his handling of Ukraine. Well, Ukraine we've talked about. He doesn't necessarily want to help Ukraine, because that's, that in the deal that goes to Putin anyway. And although Biden didn't do much better, we really should have put much more force into this thing early on, and we would have settled it and gone from there. I really don't think that Putin, as crazy as he is, would start a nuclear war over Ukraine. And then Gaza and Israel. Well. What do we say about that? Here we are. We see these pictures of Gaza flattened. I mean, it looks much worse than most cities look after World War II. It looks like Hiroshima looked, except maybe a little worse after the A-bomb. And you have to keep in mind that 80% of those bombs and 80% of the artillery shells that they're using to kill people are American. They have American flags on them. It means that we're all responsible. Any of us who are not really screaming about this, and I'm not doing enough. I haven't talked to my congressman yet. I plan to, and as many as others as I can. We should not be supporting Israel in that war. Netanyahu, don't care much for him. The Likud, and as a matter of fact, I think that the Likud have made it clear in various statements in the past that what they want is they want the whole area from the river to the sea. Okay, they want everybody that's against them out. Certainly not to have a vote. They don't want a two-state solution. They don't want a one-state solution because then they would be a minority and it would not be a Jewish state. A two-state solution would never be a two-state solution. It would be a 1.5 state solution because the Palestinians would never have the full powers of a state as long as Israel has any power at all. And I can understand their thinking on that, but it's a problem. It's a problem without any easy solutions. We tend to think that every problem, if you look hard enough, there's a good solution. There are no good solutions to this problem. And so I can complain about it. I don't have any really good answers. You know, as long as the colonialist Israelis, and they are colonialists, they are colonizers, are there, original peoples for a long time will be resisting, as did the Native Americans here. They resisted for about 200 years, and then they finally threw in the towel. They realized that they weren't going to win. Maybe that's what'll happen here. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what's going to happen. I think the Palestinians are in for a long, hard fight, which they will probably ultimately lose. And we are, you know, we'll have the same we'll be viewed the same way as Israel is. And the terrorists who really haven't done much in the U.S. so far. We had this thing in Boulder recently, and we had the 2 people killed in Washington from the Israeli embassy. But that's very, you know, we've been very lucky. And then that one Palestinian boy was killed up in the northwest suburbs. That has been the extent of the real violence here in the U.S. Everybody's complaining about anti-Semitism. It is not not a growth in anti-Semitism, which is happening. It's happening worthwhile. It is anti-Israeli, anti-Likud. They don't want to call it that. They want to call it anti-Semitism because that will get sympathy for the Israelis, the Israeli government. I don't want to even criticize Israel, although I call myself anti-Israeli. I'm really anti-Likud, not anti-Israeli. Somewhere between 60 and 77% of Israelis, depending on the polls you look at, want Netanyahu out. They don't approve of what he's doing. They don't approve of the way it's being handled. And so we can hardly blame it on all of Israel. I've said that what I'd say to the Palestinians, if I could speak to them, is American Jews are not your problem. And in fact, most Israeli Jews are not your problem. The problem is the Likud, Netanyahu, and the American government that is supporting Netanyahu. And so we may at some point have to deal with, it may get to the point where it'll be very difficult for Americans to travel in most parts of the world because we will be targets. And frankly, you're going now, we deserve it. That's my opinion.
Yes. How you doing?
Am I about out of time, Tim?
Hold on a second. All right. Thanks a lot. All right. We got another person on the line there ending in 9157. It's a caller. I don't know who you are, but you're open and you're welcome to speak. I know it's your mom. I'm at the College of Complex Swipe. I'm planning on taking you to church tomorrow. Okay.
Hello.
Yes. No, 10
Who is
o'clock.
this?
Who's next? We have one. Excuse me. We have one more person there. If you don't want to speak, I'm gonna okay, yeah, go ahead.
Hi, can you hear me now? Is this me or is it somebody else?
Yeah, it's you, Jake. Go ahead.
Okay, just
But he wants a little more
I'm
time. I'm
going
sorry.
to take a few minutes to rebuttal against Ernie here. I disagree with you. I agree and I disagree. I believe in a two-state solution. There could have been a two-state solution in 1948.
Yeah, 10 o'clock.
When Israel was created in 1948, the UN partitioned the land between Israel and Palestine The Arabs rejected it offhand. They didn't want the Israelis there off. They didn't want the Israelis there at all, and so they've been at war ever since then. Most of the countries surrounding Israel have now accepted Israel's existence, but the Hamas does not. The Palestinian Authority does, but they don't have any power now. Hamas has been empowered because of an election. So Hamas is empowered. The Israelis considered Hamas to be a terrorist organization. So do I. And on October 7th of what was 2023, the Hamas attacked Israel. What?
That's what they're trying.
What? Okay, Hamas attacked Israel during a what? What are you saying? Hello? Hamas
No, Jake,
attacked Israel.
we're not saying anything.
Oh, okay.
Jake, continue
Hamas attacked
on.
Israel. What? Can you hear me?
Continue, Jake. Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you. Hamas attacked Israel during a music festival, and they killed both Israelis and Palestinians. They killed both because both happened to be there. Israel's been on the defensive ever since then. And you mentioned a terrorist attack here in the United States at this event in Boulder, Colorado. There were two others. There were two or three others that we know of. There was the about a week earlier. There was the two people killed coming out of the Holocaust Art Museum in Washington, D.C. And about a month and a half earlier, there was an incident at the home of Governor Josh Shapiro of Pennsylvania. He was sitting down with his family to have a Seder on the first night of Passover. Someone broke into the house bearing a sledgehammer, couldn't find him, so he set the house on fire. When the guy was caught by the police, he said, if I had caught up with him, I would have beat him over the head with a sledgehammer. My point is that those kind of actions are definitely, they're terrorist actions and they're anti-Semitic, and those kind of actions do not help the Palestinians at all, do they? They just play into the hands of people like Netanyahu, who think that all Palestinian sympathizers are a bunch of terrorists. I don't know what the answer is, but cool it down on both sides. I support two-state solution. That'll never happen when you have these anti-Semitic incidents going on, not only here in the United States but all over the world. That's how the pro-Palestinian supporters have the right to do what they're doing. They don't have the right to go overboard and start violence and start taking over college campuses and start harassing Jewish students on campus. Because again, that plays into the hands of Netanyahu. Netanyahu is in trouble with his own people. There were recently protests in the street in Israel calling for Netanyahu to step down. They do not have the kind of term limits that we have here. In the United States, we have set rule is that president can only be there for 2 terms, 2 4-year. President can only be there for 2 4-year terms. In Israel, I don't think they have any I don't think they have any definite time for any definite. Can I finish, please? They don't have any definite schedule for elections as we do here, and they don't have term limits for the presidency as for the prime ministership as we do here for the president. He's been there longer than anybody else. It's time for him to step down, and I think that will help improve the situation.
Is that it, Jake? All right, fine. All right, anybody else want to
Say so, I just wanted to.
All right, I'm gonna go through some rebut, but we are gonna have a little music in the background because of a party next door. But let me hang on.
I'm glad to see that Bernie and Bernie Norman and Jake Aronoff came in only by Zoom conference. But now both are real good friends. Their views obviously on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict are a little different. Now I you know, since I mentioned that one of my top priorities is human rights, so the Israeli-Palestinian conflict certainly is of interest to me as well. And as a matter of fact, I just attended on duty on the subject the night before last. But I would say that I am against the killing of innocent civilians, no matter what race or religion they are. So to me, it makes no difference whether they're Jews or Palestinians. Killing innocent civilians is wrong. So I would agree with Jake that when Hamas goes and attacks and kills and kidnaps innocent civilians, that it's wrong for them to do that. However, I also say that it is wrong for the Israeli government to, for example, bomb schools, hospitals, journalists, aid delivery trucks, refugee camps, etc. And it's equally wrong for them to do that. And so I think that there's a tendency, I think, for people to take sides and to value the lives of their own side over the lives of other people. And whatever side you're on. So, but I believe I don't take side. I'm on the side of right and of doing the right things. I'm not on the side of one people or another. And so I believe it's equally wrong for both sides to do it. I'm going to say one other thing. Trump. If you want to change, the policy that the United States has toward Israel is what it is. If you want to change, you're going to have to get in the White House, somebody other than Trump, because as long as he's the president, it's not going to change.
All right. Okay, Jake, you've spoken twice. We're gonna let a couple more go. Do you want to go again?
I got one more thing to add
No,
to it,
Jake.
which I forgot.
No.
I
Go
got one
ahead.
more thing to add to it. It'll take me 2 minutes, okay? This whole thing is where, as Ernie said, where's the money coming from Israel? Well, Netanyahu has said, if we don't get the money from the United States, we'll just do it alone. I heard the same thing. I heard the same thing years ago from an Israeli peace activist. Someone asked him, "What do you think about this whole notion of boycotting and divesting from Israel?" And he said, "That's an American problem. If Americans pulled out all money from Israel, the Israeli government wanted to continue to do what they're doing. They'd continue to do what they're doing anyway, and they just come up with another way of paying for it. So that's an American problem, and I'm in agreement with them. They just continue. If Netanyahu wanted to continue to bomb the hell out of Gaza, he'd do it with his own money. That doesn't make it any more right. I'm just saying that there are conflicts going on all over the world. Remember the civil war in Rwanda? We had nothing to do with that. We weren't the United Nations, the United Nations special troops. The United Nations sent peacekeeping troops to Rwanda, and they had a hell of a time recruiting troops to go to Rwanda. Americans were totally. There was no. What was the outcry here about the genocide in Rwanda? There was no outcry there. No outcry because we weren't involved at all, and the media wasn't paying much attention to it. So I'm saying there are genocides going all over the world. Here we're focusing overtime on the genocide in Palestine because we happen to pay for it. If we weren't paying for it, it'd still be going on. All right, that's all I have to say.
All right, Jake. Go ahead, Russ. Charlie, you want to say anything else after Russ?
All I would like to say is, look at that election with candidates that Mark Carney can vote. They are doing it counts. Actually, he was winning by. And also Alberta, Saskatchewan are filing for separate Canada.
That's Quebec.
Mouth moving.
They're looking at possible splitting up of Canada. Whether you West Canada could be more possible than it's going to be West, but these things are a little more complicated than we realize.
Okay, Ernie, you're going next, and then we'll go with Charlie.
Yeah, am I on now?
Alright, go January 6th and not 7th.
Okay,
Yeah.
Ernie, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, I have to get back to what Jake said, rebutting me. I guess well, first of all, on the Rwanda thing, we didn't get involved. And President Clinton has said that the biggest mistake he made, what he regrets most about his presidency, is that he didn't get involved, because thousands and thousands of people were killed there that didn't need to be, and we should have helped. But that is a bit low. As far as anti-Semitism versus anti-Israeli or anti-Likud, most of what's happening now, the great increase, there's always been some anti-Semitism in the world, and there always probably will be a little bit, and also against other groups. But the big increase, I've heard 300% in some places, maybe even Chicago, of incidents. These are not at the base anti-Semitic incidents. They are anti-Israeli. People are objecting to what they're doing to the Palestinians. If you take the incident in Boulder, the man screamed publicly, "Free Palestine." In other words, this is against what they're doing in Palestine to the Palestinians. The fellow here from Chicago, I think his name was Rodriguez, that killed the two people in Washington, D.C. that were part of the Israeli embassy. He screamed the same thing, "Free Palestine." This is all part of a movement against Palestine. It is not anti-Semitism. It probably could, if it goes on long enough, it will become anti-Semitism. But at the present time, it is mostly anti-Israeli. And yes, there are people who are anti-Israeli who are anti-Semitic, and people who are anti-Semitic who are also anti-Israeli. But they are two separate things. And it is likely that they will merge. It's likely they will merge over time if this continues as it is. And again, I also, I agree with almost everybody said we don't know the answer. I don't know the answer, but as long as you have a case where you've got basically colonialists in an area where they're not welcome, could go on for a long time, and a lot of people could be killed.
Voters involved. All right.
Who's speaking now? I think I am still for another minute. There's 30 seconds or so. I think the Palestinians in the long run are going to lose, but in the longer run, I think Jews worldwide are going to lose, because I think Netanyahu is planting the seeds for another Holocaust with the way he's handling the situation. I'm done.
Okay, Charlie, go ahead. You're the final
Yeah, I'd like to
rebutter.
ask a general question. Maybe Don or George can answer this. There's a proposal out there, and I was trying to find a copy of it, but they're going to require all federal employees, in order to retain their position, to take a loyalty oath, which to some extent they already do, because you don't want disloyal commies in government and all that. No one does. But do you think it should be opened up to the general public, that if the people feel they want to demonstrate their faith in their country, that it should be allowed to take a loyalty oath to the federal government?
Yeah. Loyalty oath to who? To the federal government or to Trump?
Jake?
I'm asking Charlie, what do you mean?
Well, you don't answer a question with a question.
No, loyalty oath to who? There's a difference.
So Trump is not president of the United States, duly recognized president of the United States, according to you?
I mean, he's hiring people who are loyal to him, not to
But
the
he is, in
Constitution.
fact, not the
Come on,
president of the
guys.
United States.
we're gonna have to wrap up here soon, so
All right, 7:15.
all right. Anything else, Charlie?
No, I haven't heard any answers from anyone.
Okay, go ahead, Mike. We'll let you close us out then.
Ugly, they allow. Like they're getting in green. Green will be. Right. You gotta get like. None of that. So that's it. Nothing green. Burn baby bread. Burn. He didn't talk about you. But you know, keep that. Yeah. So tax cuts for the rich. They lie when they say it's tax cuts across the board. It is not. You have to close. Okay, you're gonna get $50. Is that for you? Yeah. But if you make millions, you get more money. Of course. So they're gonna hit you about it.
All right, come on, guys. Let's get this.
Keep an eye on crooks and criminal companies. And the ending Medicaid benefits for a lot of people.
Sorry, were you reading something?
It's
Rich families will be protected.
Something is wrong. It's
It's
just not.
illegal. If you want to come here, if you take 5 million, don't let you in part of watch. But if you're not, but if you were poor, you gotta come up with some, scratch. You're gonna leave. Opening up all the forests for timber. So we'll get rid of, a lot of them are oxygen. No taxes on PayPal. Wonder who put that in. That Husk's company.
Yes, was.
Big money for military. Complex. War Department, Navy, Air Force, Space Force. No tax and regulation. Oh, for funds, more taxes or regulations on silencers. Well, Tim, if you don't like some, find them, shoot them.
Bills to be cheaper to print the silencer on the 3D printer.
Yeah.
Okay, Mike, wrap it up, please. We gotta.
Money for airlines and traffic controllers. People that are, control airplanes and us general people that don't fly a lot. We're gonna be paying for all their traffic. Just a couple more things. Oh, big money for the Golden Dome. I guess that's something Israel has for protecting their faith. So they're going to waste a lot of money on that. Most people don't help. You're on your own. Benefit fighting. I didn't get my $10,000 to fight. He was handing out that for you. No more attack. Keep that.
Okay,
Okay, wait, there's more down on the corner.
what's your job?
Yeah, but it's like.
Mike. Gonna have to wrap up.
Okay, tax on universities if they don't like your politics, anti-free speech. More ethanol, exports, burn baby burn, so farmers should be burning more corn. Good. We grow corn.
Okay, Mike.
Repeal all things. That's about it. Thank God there's a lot of judging, there's a lot of court.
All right.
That will block everything.
Okay, with that, we're gonna wrap up our college tonight. I'm gonna wrap it up tonight. I'd like to thank everybody for coming tonight. Appreciate all of you coming. And with that, we'll, Charlie, do you want to take the discussion further or do you just want to? hang
We'll
up.
close it up.
Who's speaking next week?
All
We
right.
announced it,
Let me
Cuba.
stop.